Today, I'm going to talk about the purpose of negative feelings. Raising great kids is a privilege and a responsibility. Sometimes our children can't see their own greatness. Sometimes we can't. Other times we can see their greatness but struggle to step up because of our own challenges. We will be discussing the brain science, tools, and techniques that help us raise great kids. Hi, I'm Cynthia Armstrong. I'm a general and special education teacher. I homeschooled my children for 5 years, and the things I talk about are those things that I've studied and I've applied and figured out what works in many of the different situations and with the many difficulties that I've worked with myself, my children, and my students. So today I want to talk about the purpose of negative feelings. And I use negative feelings because that's the language that a lot of people use, is that, oh, if we feel anger or we feel disappointment or we feel sadness, that these are negative feelings. But it doesn't help to think of them as negative feelings because they're essential, they're needed. And so to say they're negative just means that our relationship with them isn't what we want them to be yet. And so, and that can change. And we can build that relationship we want with negative feelings by understanding their purpose. And so when we can understand their purpose and we have that better relationship with negative feelings, then we can help our children. And our children pick up on like our emotions and our relationship with our emotions. So if they see us being disappointed or being sad, they see how we respond to that emotion. And that is how they learn to deal with their emotions. And I say this generally speaking because there are a few children who can learn from that negative and then look elsewhere for a way to do that. But that is super rare because as parents, we really truly have the greatest influence on our children. But let's talk about the brain a little bit. I've done some past episodes, kind of on the brain and on the negative feelings. So I'll do a quick review, but I'll let you go back and find and watch those ones. But in our brain, if we were to take images of our brain with someone who just broke their arm or did something that caused a lot of physical pain, and then they took an image of the brain of someone who had experienced like the pain of loss of someone, or was feeling a lot of depression or some emotional pain. When you look at those two brains, they would look the same. Like the parts that light up when we're in physical pain is the same that lights up when we're in emotional pain. And so when we look at the pain, because negative emotions people often will consider as those are the negative emotions because they're painful. So when we look at, well, why do we experience physical pain? Then it helps us to understand why we experience emotional pain or negative emotions, or as I prefer to call them, kind of like the ones I just don't want to linger in. And when we break our arm or we put our hand on the hot stove, Or one of my favorites, when young children come to me and tell me their feet hurt, and then I find their toes curled up and shoved tight in their shoes because they don't know to express, oh, my shoes are too small. And they could be their favorite shoes and they don't want to give them up. So we often will experience these pains. We have all kinds of pain. And they still have one purpose. And that purpose is to tell us that something needs to change, that we need to get a larger size shoes if we don't want our toes curled up in them hurting, that we need to change, how we were rollerblading. If we broke our arm while we were rollerblading, that is something that it's a skill we're still developing and need to develop that a little bit more. Or that these things happen, but something needs to change. We can wear more protective clothing, we can change sizes, we can take our hand off the hot stove. It means something needs to change. If we want that pain to go away, if we want our body to be healthy, to be strong, to not experience those pains, then there's something that we can do. And so when we experience negative emotions, and again, I say we because if we understand, then we can help our children. If we feel these negative feelings, these ones that we don't want to linger in too long, then if we don't want to linger there, we need to kind of find the information that our brain's trying to give us that says something needs to change. And this happens for multiple reasons. And so it's the discovery of why, what is causing this emotional pain and how can I change it? And oftentimes, and it happened for me, because I've experienced depression, anxiety, and a few of those other things. And I go in and they say, oh, well, you have anxiety. And I'm like, no, duh. What do I do about it then? And they'll give me some coping skills, but they didn't give me anything that could really shift or change the part that needed to be changed. Because anxiety is not the problem. The anxiety is the symptom of what's going on in the brain, and my brain trying to give me a message. So the messages that our brain is trying to tell us is that need to change. And often it's because we're not meeting our psychological needs internally, that we're looking externally to meet those needs. And guess what? External isn't super reliable. External can enhance, external can kind of give us those experiences to help us feel internally, but it doesn't provide it. I mean, my husband, I can't just say my husband and I have never had disagreements, or we've never thought of parenting in different ways, or agreed or disagreed with which financial risks or financial things to invest in, and yet it's not my husband who's responsible for how I feel or how I handle those things. Those are mine. And so we learn that very early, and in school as a teacher, I mean, they say, PBIS, those positive behavior, I forget what the I stands for, support, that those that we want to reward kids for the positive behaviors and things like that. And that just teaches kids to externally be looking for how they should feel. oh, I was given my little reward, so I can feel good about who I am. But if I don't get that, then I can't feel that, right? And so um, it's so important that we really understand, what psychological needs that we have, that we understand, oh, well, of course I'm having depression because that's how my brain interprets not receiving a reward externally. It says, well, if I become depressed, and in the past someone has come and said, oh, Cynthia, and gave me uh, enough of my emotional need externally that my brain says, oh, I need to go there again. And our brain keeps going there and it keeps going there because if it's rewarded at once, it always wants to see that it's right. And so I've got to do it. I've got to go into deeper depression because I didn't get that externally yet, or I've got to do this. And it kind of goes through this cycle. And then we might come up a little bit, right? Because one of our needs is variety. And so once we're depressed long enough, or, we might try by going deeper, that'll give us a little variety. But then we come up a little bit. But then we need that certainty that of meeting that external, that reward, that internal, that psychological need in externally, and so that we'll get depressed again, and we can go through these cycles. So just remember that those feelings that we don't want to linger in very long, don't avoid them. Go into it, feel it deeper so that you can figure out the message. It's the running away from the message it's trying to give us. We go, oh, this feeling's negative. I've got to not feel this way. And so we're going to watch TV. We're going to eat that ice cream or candy, or, get that little sugar high. We're going to go into whatever we do. I mean, some of us might be severe enough that we're going into drugs that are very unhelpful for us, or we go into various other addictions or behavior patterns or things like that because we're trying to avoid the message that those feelings are giving us. And that just increases the message. Our brain's going to start yelling the message at us because we haven't been listening. But if we go into that with the understanding of our psychological needs, then we can get the message. And as soon as we get whatever the message is, like, oh, I can feel certainty in myself, that even if uncertain things happen to me, I still know that I'm capable, and that this is just a life experience, and that it's not going to last forever, or whatever it is that our brain is trying to get us to understand with those emotions. And that's just one example. But you're also always welcome to join me in the Facebook groups, or find out what kind of things that we offer in one-on-one or other ways, so we can go into your messages. Because once you've learned to hear your messages, then you can do it again and again and again. It's not coping. It's not managing. It is understanding to build that internal independence, and how amazing it is, and how the anxiety or the depression or those other addictions, because those are addictions as well, just don't make sense, and you don't need them anymore when you understand how to do that. So remember, children are great by their very natures, and we have that privilege and that responsibility to raise them. Hi friends, Cynthia Armstrong here. Thanks for joining us today. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you can see when new videos come out and like this one. It is such a responsibility and a challenge to raise great kids, and we are here to help you along that journey to make it as enjoyable and fun and fulfilling as possible. Please check out our website, www.raisinggreatkids.net, and I will leave that in the description below.